Hey guys, welcome back to the Sullivan family. So in my last vlog, I said that I would put together another vlog with some budgeting tips in it. So I meant to film this earlier on today, but the day hasn't quite gone as planned today. Hence why I've hidden away in our bedroom in amongst all the washing with a little baby Flo, who is ready for bed, aren't you? You're ready for bed because you're not feeling all that well today. She's caught the other one's cold. So all the little ones have gone back to school and they've all come home with various stages of colds. And now you seem to have caught it too, don't you? Yeah. Haven't you? So she's a bit unhappy. So we're giving her a bath and she's going to come and help me do this vlog, aren't you? And then you're going to have a bottle and go to sleep, probably. Hey, for a little while. So yeah, we've hidden away in the bedroom for a minute to do this. So I think we've said before quite a few times that, you know, we never kind of want to come across as being, you know, you must do this and you must do that. But along the way, we've picked up some tips and tricks of all different things. And we've always said, if they can help other people in any way, then that's great. So obviously having a lot of children means a lot of budgeting. So we've learned little things over the years that have helped out. Unfortunately, the cost of living crisis as it is at the moment, you know, there's no magic wand for that, unfortunately. And even I'm scratching my head with thinking, you know, what are we going to do with when the bills go up even more, the energy and food and everything else, the same as everybody else's. But at the moment, there's some things that you can kind of do, and that there might be things that people are quite obvious to people, and they think, well, we already do that, or there might be things, you know, that people haven't thought of. So I thought I'd just share some bits, and if they're of use to people, that's great. So here we go. Okay, so baby Flo has gone downstairs. She's not very happy and she keeps crying and she just wants a bottle and she wants to go to bed. So she didn't want to help with the vlog tonight, I'm afraid. So she's gone downstairs with Charlotte. Anyway, one of the first things I would say is what I do is I've got a budget book, so a banking book, budget book, whatever you like, where everything gets written down. What comes in, what goes out, direct debits, you know, dates of phone contracts, everything, all gets written in that book. So it's like my Bible of banking, if you like. Ben always laughs because he's like, I can't make head nor tail of this, but it does make sense. So in the front, I've got direct debits and dates, standing orders and dates that they come out. So every month I do a new page of what's coming in, what date is coming in, what is going out, what date is going out, so that I can make sure that I've got money in the account for when things, you know, go out. I know that sounds quite simple, and it is a really simple one, but in my younger years that was definitely something that I didn't do. And I'd think, you know, oh, 15th would come along and a direct debit would come out and I hadn't written it down. I didn't write things down, you know, as a teenager or young 20s, earning money comes in, you forget that money goes out again. So, you know, you'd get hit with, if you didn't have anything in the account, then you'd get hit with overdraft fees, charges, bank charges, etc, etc, etc. And those are added things on your account that you really don't want and are unnecessary if you make sure that you keep an eye on what you've got coming in and going out. So that's kind of one of my top tips, if you like. And it's a really simple one. And it just takes a little bit of time at the beginning of each month, like I said, just to work out, you know, what you've got coming in, what you've got going out, and then what you've got left over is, which isn't always very much at the moment, is kind of what you've got to play with for the rest of the month. So then the next thing I will do is work out the budgets that I've got. You know, everything's got its budget. So there's shopping budget, there's fuel budget, there's dance lessons, all those different things have got different budgets. So I can say, well, I need this amount of money for this, you know, this is what I've got left after my bills have come out, I need this money for this, I need this amount of money for this amount of money for shopping, etc, etc, etc. And then what I get left over with at the end of the month, after all of the stuff has been paid for, I've kind of done the big long sum and what is left over at the end, which isn't very much at the moment with everything going up, will either go, you know, that will become like spare cash, if you like. So things that you don't necessarily account for, like a takeaway, or you know, a friend's birthday or something like that, that you don't necessarily factor in as a monthly kind of thing. And then we were trying to put a little bit away in savings every month as well, but that's not happening quite so much at the moment with the energy bills and everything else going up. So yeah, that's kind of one of my major things that I do every single month. It's just income and expenditure, really. It's like I said, it's a really simple one. Lots of people already do it, but I know when I was younger, I didn't used to do it, and I used to get charges and stuff for things because I just wouldn't keep an eye on my bank account, and I wouldn't keep an eye on what I had coming in and going out. So that's quite an important one. Another one that's kind of direct debit standing order kind of based is to go through quite regularly and see what you're paying for, because quite often, especially if you enter into a contract, a phone contract, something like that, it might be that you get 18 months at a certain amount of money and then it suddenly jumps up. You know, I regularly go through what we're paying for and how much we're paying. Quite often, you know, after a year, things like pet insurances, they want you to renew, and if you haven't renewed, then sometimes you find that it's jumped up by £10 or something. So I regularly go through all of our direct debits and standing orders to make sure I know what we're paying, and just as well to see if there's anything that can be cancelled. We had Sky, and we've still got Sky, but we had the kids had Sky boxes in their room. This is going back a few years, and I just, you know, it got to the point where I thought it's not worth it. It's not worth, you know, they put the price up by, they used to be like £10 for each room, and then it was like £15 for each room, and I said, we're just not, you know, we're not using it, we don't need it. So go through regularly and see if there's anything that you can cancel, anything you don't necessarily need, anything that's gone up extortionately. You know, you used to be able to shop around more for insurances and stuff. I mean, it's not so easy now with everything that's gone up, but, you know, just keep an eye on what you're paying for. I also, we've got quite a few mobile phones on contract, so I make sure that I've written down the date that they started and the date that they end, because it's things like that it's handy if you've written it all down in one place, because otherwise you've got to search around on online accounts, and it used to be paperwork, but, you know, even just searching online for when a contract ends or something, if you've got quite a few, it's easier if you've got it all written down, because then you know, well, that started then and that finishes then. And, you know, there is the odd occasion that companies do make mistakes, and quite often people don't notice because, you know, you haven't necessarily seen that they've charged an extra month. I mean, it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen sometimes. You know, banks can make mistakes, companies can make mistakes, and if you're not on top of it, then you won't necessarily notice, and they'll get that extra money that you didn't necessarily need to pay. So yeah, if you're keep an eye on it regularly, then you notice if there's any little errors or any little mistakes or anything that's been taken that shouldn't have been taken. So yeah, that's quite important as well. I mentioned a little bit about budgets, but that's quite, I mean, I'm always going over budget on different things, but it's, if you've got a base of where to start, like you have a weekly shopping budget. I mean, my weekly shopping budget probably doesn't cover it half the time, and plus I kind of split it into 4. What I've got as a total amount, I'll split it into 4, and quite often there's 5 weeks in a month, so you might have to split it into 5. You might end up going over and having to borrow from another budget, but if you kind of try and it gives you in your mind, you think, well, I've got this much money, so I need to stick to this much, and that also means if you've split it into weekly budgets, especially if you get paid monthly, that you don't kind of, you haven't spent like all your money on shopping in the first week, and then you've got nothing left for the other 3 weeks. Believe me, I know these are the things that sound like you think, well, you know, that wouldn't necessarily happen, but when I was younger and living on my own, I did do things like that. You do things like that when you're younger, because you don't necessarily think ahead quite as much as you do when you've got a family to feed and all of that. And you know, equally, it can be really hard to stretch money, especially nowadays when the cost of everything is so much. It's really difficult to stretch money. So if you've kind of set yourself a budget, you know, you've hopefully got some money left, you know, later on in the month when you need money for more shopping, more food. I mean, it's getting more and more difficult all the time for people I know, because the cost of food is going up. So obviously the budget that you had, everything's costing more now, so you're getting less for what you're paying, basically. So you might still have that budget, but you're getting much less for it. So making it stretch even further is sort of getting harder and harder. But it's just a kind of one of those things that if you can do it, it does help, because then at least you know that, you know, you have got a little bit of money left in that week. Otherwise you face week 4 of the month if you're being paid monthly and you've got no money left for shopping. So, you know, those sorts of things, just planning out what you've got, it really does help. And I do the same with fuel. I mean, we're over budget for everything at the moment, so we're over budget for fuel because it's costing so much more money, but equally you can see what you've spent. So I'll write down every time we've put fuel in, so I can see, you know, it used to be this much a month and now it's this. I'm just realised I'm holding a Nerf bullet in my hand. I'm really sorry. There's a Nerf gun here as well. If you watched my vlog the other day, you'll have seen that there's Nerf bullets everywhere in my house, because somebody decided that buying 400 Nerf bullets for the kids over the holidays would be a really great idea, and now they're literally everywhere. I find them, there's some over there, there's some under the door, there's on the stairs, they're literally everywhere. I found them in my bed, in the baby's bed, under the bed, behind the bed, literally everywhere. So that's why I've got a Nerf bullet in my hand. Anyway, as I was saying, yeah, I mean, we're over budget for fuel, but at least you can kind of see, well, this is how much it used to be, this is how much it is now. It doesn't make it feel any better, but it kind of, sometimes you might, I know for me, if I didn't write everything down, I'd get to the end of the month and go, well, where has all my money gone? What did I spend it on? Whereas I can look back to, you know, May and go, where did I spend my money in May? And it will tell, oh, that's what that was. You know, I had to pay for this, or I had to pay for that. That's where that extra money went. Because if you're anything like me, I do tend to analyse situations sometimes, and especially when money is concerned, I do analyse that, because I've spent so many years budgeting, and, you know, me and Ben, we both were not very careful with money when we were younger. We both got into debt when we were younger. So nowadays for us, you know, being out of debt and everything is a really important thing to stay that way, because, you know, we were both young, we both worked pre-children. This is before we had children. You know, we both had jobs, just went out and lived life really, but that did involve in getting into debt as well. So I don't want to go back there ever, especially not when I've got a family. So I do try my hardest to, you know, keep on top of everything, because it's so easy to lose control of it all, so easy. And sometimes, and especially nowadays, it's not anybody's fault. You know, people are going into debt because they can't pay their energy bill or they can't pay their food bill, and that is ridiculous. It's not like people are going into debt because they've gone and bought a new car that they can't afford, or, you know, gone into debt because they've spent too much money on going out partying or something. Nowadays people are getting into debt because they can't afford to buy their food, and they can't, you know, they can't feed their families, and they can't heat their houses. That's the scary bit nowadays, and it scares me. I mean, at the moment, you know, we're okay. We've got to pay more for our bills, but, you know, we're managing. The bit that we used to be able to put into savings, we can't do that anymore. So that kind of takes that little bit of scope away for, you know, we're kind of on a much more even keel nowadays. You know, you want to start being able to enjoy taking the kids away or something like that. Our kids have never been away, and obviously having a big family, those are the sorts of things that you do sacrifice. You find different things to do. You know, you go on days out, you do all these other different things instead of going on holiday. But it was our dream to be able to take the kids away, so we had been putting a little bit of money into savings and you know, that sort of thing. Whereas now the money that's going into savings is much less, because obviously we're having to pay more for bills. But you know, we're in a more fortunate position that we can at least, I think it sounds stupid when you say you're fortunate, because you can put food on the table. You know, how in 2022 can you be fortunate to be able to put food on your table? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's, you know, I can't even get started on this, because I don't understand how the energy companies are making so much money and people are paying so much for energy, to the point where some people can't afford to feed their families and can't heat their houses. In 2022, you've got people selling everything they own because they can't afford to eat. That, it's not right. It's not. How does that happen? You know, how? And nobody seems to be doing anything about it. It's just craziness. But anyway, that wasn't what this, you know, my vlog wasn't about that. My vlog was about trying to find ways to help a little bit. But it just keeps coming back to me that, you know, there will be people that, you know, maybe people that are watching this that will go, but I don't have that money to stretch. You know, I didn't have that in the first place, and now I really haven't got it. But I know that, and I guess I'm just trying to sort of, just like I said, just trying to give out some advice for things that maybe, not even advice, but just tips of things that we've maybe done that have helped out and that might help. I know in the current climate, it's not magic, but it might, you know, it might help just a little bit. So yeah. So another good tip is meal plan. So even if you don't write it down, I meal plan quite often in my head, because obviously we have the girls dance on a Wednesday and a Thursday evening, so they eat later normally on those nights. So I know that those nights I haven't got to cook for everybody at the same time. So those are the nights that I'll normally shove something in the oven. They'll have chicken nuggets or some white food, and I know that that's probably not politically correct, and I know that people will go, oh, you don't feed your kids that, but yes I do. And so will most of the people. You know, we might not all want to admit it, but yes, we do feed them white food, because they like it and they'll eat it, and it's quick and it's easy. Not every single night, apart from maybe a couple of them that have real food phobias, but you know, it's quick, it's simple, it's easy. So on those nights they do get stuff like that. But on a Monday and a Tuesday night, when everybody's in the house, I'll try and make sure that I cook a proper meal for everybody. And then when, like I said, Wednesday and Thursday they're out. Friday, Ben normally does the cooking on a Friday. It's normally something like mash with something. So, and then there's the weekends. So I kind of do a quick meal plan in my head. I probably go shopping twice a week. So I'll probably do, like tonight I'm going shopping. So it's Tuesday, I'm going shopping this evening, and that will be for like up until Friday. And then I'll probably go Friday again and get for the weekend, because nothing ever lasts very long in this house. But if you're doing shopping for the week, then, you know, think ahead, do a quick meal plan in your head, so you know what ingredients you need, what you're going to cook. Secondly, I always take a shopping list. Always take a shopping list. I'd be lost without my shopping list, because if I went shopping without one, I'd just come home with random stuff. I'm bad enough as it is, you know, just random, because I can't remember what we need and what we don't need. I always write a shopping list, because I don't like buying stuff we don't need, which again is the whole kind of reason for sort of meal planning in your head as well, so that when you buy fresh stuff, I don't like wasting food. I hate wasting food. That's kind of that's an environmentally friendly one, if you like, as well. I hate wasting food, and a cost thing as well, which is another reason I go back to the whole white food situation. We've got a couple of our kids who have real kind of food issues, and if I was to make them a meal every night that they weren't going to eat because they hated it, I can't afford to throw food away, and a lot of people can't afford to throw food away. So, you know, it's kind of, I put things in front of them that I know they will eat sometimes. And another reason being, I don't want meal times to become a battleground, because they can, you know, I don't want them to sit there in front of a meal that they absolutely detest and cannot. I will always give them little bits and pieces. I did a roast dinner this evening and Toby wasn't overly keen, but I was like, can you just try it a little bit? I mean, he did try a bit and he was still like, I don't like it, because he has quite, you know, there's certain things he doesn't like, but he tried it. So I will always get them to kind of try things, but you know, if they really, really don't like it, I'm not going to sit there and become a battleground around meal times, because it's just not something that we do. I digressed again. I'm terrible at digressing, aren't I? I always go off on a different tangent. Anyway, yeah, so meal plan and write a shopping list, and only buy what you know you're going to use, because otherwise it just ends up going in the bin. I mean, tin stuff and all that sort of stuff is great because you can put it in the cupboard and it's not, you know, it's got quite a long shelf life. So those sorts of things are okay if things are on offer. But that's another thing as well. When you're in the supermarket, especially Tesco's, sometimes you'll see things on offer and you'll think, oh, that looks like quite a good offer. And in actual fact, it's not a good offer, because, you know, always when they've got offers on, always do a quick calculation in your head, or they've normally got on the sticker how much it is per kilo or per 100 grams or whatever, per litre or whatever, because sometimes the offers aren't as good as they look, and sometimes it's actually cheaper to buy things that aren't on offer. So always make sure you have, and I know it makes it shopping more time consuming, but if you can save yourself some money in the long run, it's worth it. Another thing that I do is I shop around at different supermarkets. I mainly stick to Asda, Tesco's, Aldi, but I do shop around. Asda at the moment, I've got a reward scheme which is really, really good. You just download the app, and then at the end of the shopping, show them your app barcode, and it adds on money. I think I've got about 15 quid on mine already, and it's actual money that you can just use in Asda. So as Tesco's, I know, do club card points, and you get your money in vouchers, but over the years you kind of get less and less offers from Tesco's, I've noticed, and less kind of money back. But I still get some, and I normally put it towards clothes, summer clothes, uniforms, that sort of thing. So it always gets used, and it's always, at the end of the day, it's free money, isn't it? So that's always good. But I do try and keep an eye on different prices in different shops. And because I'm always in the supermarket, I can normally remember. See, these are the things I can remember. I can't remember what I did yesterday, but I can remember the choices of things in shops. I don't know where that is. I used to remember number plates when I was little. I always remembered number plates. That's how I recognise people's cars. So yeah, I try and sort of, if I know something's on offer in Tesco's, then I'll go and buy it there. I mean, sometimes it bites you because you get there and it's not on offer and you think, well, I'm not going to go back to the supermarket. But most of the time you can kind of think, well, I know I can get like wraps, deli wraps. They're a certain price in, I think they're £1.40 in Tesco's, they're £1.15 in Asda. And I know I could buy the unbranded one, but they don't like them. So, you know, when you know you can get something cheaper somewhere else, like things that frozen foods will be on offer in one supermarket, and you think, I know that they're cheaper in the other one. So swap, you know, if you can, if you've got access to, and if you're doing it online, you can obviously see the difference in prices while you're there. So just, I've done an online shop before where I've had both tabs open, Asda and Tesco's, and just flicking through to see which one's cheapest. But yeah, if you can, just shop around where you can get the best prices, where you can get the things cheapest. Sometimes buying in bulk can work out cheaper if you're going to use it. If you're not, you're just going to end up throwing it away, then that's not working out any cheaper. But if you're going to use it, and things, I mean, we get through a lot of stuff. So for us, buying in bulk is quite obviously quite a lot better for some things. And the other thing, which we haven't done quite yet, during COVID, we used to eat quite a lot of own brand cereals, all things like that. And then during COVID, when you couldn't get hold of anything, if everybody remembers those days when you couldn't get toilet roll, when you couldn't get hold of stuff, the only things you could get was the branded items. So I started buying branded stuff. Well, now they don't like the ones that aren't branded anymore. They're like, oh, but I like proper Frosties and I like real crunchy nut cornflakes. So I think that will be the thing that, you know, when our shopping bill we can't manage it, we'll be going back to own brand stuff. At the moment, I'm still buying Frosties and Crunchy Nut cornflakes because they like them better and because I like them better. But those would be, you know, swapping to own brands. Sometimes there's hardly any taste difference, and it's one of those real simple ones. I mean, there is things like beans. I must admit, I like proper Heinz beans, but other things you can't taste the difference. So, you know, you're getting things quite a lot cheaper. It's even things like paracetamol and ibuprofen. If you read the packets of the really cheap ones and the expensive ones, the ingredients are the same. You're just kind of buying the name. So yeah, those sorts of things. Own brands, much cheaper. I know Asda at the moment are doing an Asda Essentials range, which I think we bought the porridge oats the other day, and the chocolate mousses, because they're the same chocolate mousse as they were before, but they're now in the Essentials range, and they're the ones that the kids really like. So they're like £1 for 6. So yeah, those are kind of my budget kind of tips for now. I've probably got loads more when I think of them. I mean, I'll call this part 1 video because I'll probably think of loads more, but those are the ones that I wrote down quickly today and the other day when somebody asked me about some budgeting tips, and I thought, well, these are the things that I do on kind of a daily basis, you know, and but I'll probably think of loads more. There's probably is loads more, but for now, that's kind of my top tips on, you know, how to plan, if you like, plan your money out better and keep an eye on what you're doing and keep an eye on what you're spending. And I mean, it doesn't make anything any cheaper and it doesn't make anything any easier, but it does kind of, you can see where your money's going, and if anything, it just helps lessen the anxiety of not knowing. I know that if I don't know what's going in and out of our bank account, and you know, I'm spending this, that and the other, and I'm thinking, oh, you know, we don't have an overdraft or anything like that, so I'd be paranoid about going overdrawn or anything like that. So having it all written down, and I check my bank account regularly as well. Every couple of days I'll check it and I'll make sure that things have gone out and things have, you know, come in that they should have come in, that, you know, the wages are what they said they were going to be, that sort of thing. And yeah, I keep an eye on it, and I check it quite regularly and just do a mini kind of bank, you know, what's left to come out and how much money we've got left over and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I hope you found it helpful, because that's kind of what I hope for, really. Like I said, I don't want to be sort of one of those people that says, oh, you know, if you did it like this, it'd be better. I'm not like that at all. I just want to kind of, if I can help people out in any way by thinking of things, because I know that people have said things to me before and I've gone, I didn't even think of that, you know, what a brilliant idea. Because sometimes you just need to hear another person's way of doing something, and then you can kind of go, oh, that's, you know, that would really help me out. So hopefully it's helped some people out. So yeah, I'll try and put another budgeting video out. I'll write things down, because I'm terrible, you know what I'm like for not writing things down. So I'll write things down as I think of things, and I'll put together another video at some point. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I'm off to do the shopping now, which I really don't want to go and do because I hate it. But at least Ben puts it away, so that's much better. So yeah, don't forget to drop us a like, and hit the bell for notifications, and we will see you in the next video. Bye guys.